Hello. Today's topic is going to be 6 disturbing true crime stories. And just going ahead and letting you know. Warning. This is very disturbing and also has detailed stories. Number 1. The Unicorn Killer. As an adolescent, Ira Einhorn gave himself the nickname of the Unicorn, the English translation of his German surname. The killer was an environmental activist and part of the anti-war movement when he murdered his ex-girlfriend Holly Maddox. Maddox disappeared in early September 1977 after stopping by Einhorn's Philadelphia apartment to collect her things following their breakup. Several weeks after Maddox's death, police questioned her ex-boyfriend on her whereabouts, to which he stated that she had disappeared on her way to the neighborhood co-op. 18 months later, after neighbors began reporting a rancid smell, police found Maddox's body stuffed in a trunk in Einhorn's closet, several days before Einhorn stood trial. He fled to Europe. As Einhorn had already been arraigned, the court was able to try to convict and sentence him to absentee. Despite this fact, Einhorn managed to remain in France for 23 years, even getting married while craftily evading extraction. The US government was finally able to bring him back to the States and reconvict him in 2002. Einhorn is now serving a life sentence without any possible parole. Number 2. Issei Sagawa. The cannibal became a local celebrity after signing himself out of Japanese mental institution in 1986. Sagawa came from a wealthy family and exhibited cannibalistic urges from an early age, even engaging in bestiality. At 23, he made his first attempt of eating human flesh, breaking into a woman's house to cut some of her flesh off. He was caught and charged with attempted rape. Later, he would move to France to earn his PhD in literature. It would be then, at age 32, Sagawa would kill and eat his classmate Renee Hartvelt, he admitting to luring the 25-year-old Dutch woman to his apartment an excuse of working on poetry. He said he had chose her for her beauty and health, two things he believed he lacked. After shooting her in the neck, he ate various parts of her body over the course of 2 days. He then attempted to dump her body, including 2 suitcases of her dismembered body parts, into a lake, but was caught in the act. After being held for 2 years in police custody, he was deemed legally insane in the French court and was ordered to be held indefinitely in a mental health institution. After being deported to Japan, he was declared sane by Japanese psychologists and so was able to sign himself out of the care. Number 3. The Granny Killer. An English-born Australian serial killer, John Wayne Glover, was known for preying on elderly women, including the widow of the artist Will Ashton. Over a span of 14 months between 1989 and 1990, Glover killed 6 elderly women after brutally attacking them. At times, he used simply his fists to attack his victims. With others, he used objects like hammers, his victims' pantyhose, and other instruments. Many of his victims were simply women he saw walking past him on the street with whom he'd struck up a casual conversation. In addition to attacking and murdering these 6 women, Glover was also accused of molesting and sexually assaulting several other elderly women. At his trial, the psychologist noted that while Glover was sane, he had severe personality disorder, which may or may not have been connected to his turbulent relationship with his mother and mother-in-law. After being found guilty and sentenced to prison, Glover killed himself in 2005. Days before he died, he handed his last visitor a picture he had drawn featuring 2 trees and the number 9. Supposedly, 9 is the true number of murders Glover was responsible for, not merely the 6 for which he was convicted. Number 4. The Axeman of New Orleans. This American serial killer was active in the greater New Orleans area between 1918 and 1919. The majority of his murder victims were from the Italian immigrant community, and he would kill with an axe that belonged to them. The killer would access the victims' homes by removing a panel on their back door, then enter and murder them with either a straight razor or an axe. The brutal serial killer attacked at least 12 people total, most of whom were women. In March 1919, the unidentified killer sent a deranged letter from hell, where he described himself as invisible, and then also states in the letter, "Even as the ether that surrounds your earth, I am not a human being, but a spirit and a demon of the hottest hell." In the letter, the axeman stated the date and time of his next planned murder and suggested that the only way to stop him was to play jazz music. In response, the entire city had filled its buildings and streets with the music sound that night, and no one was murdered. The axe murderer would strike 3 more times before his activity would finally cease. It's still a mystery to this day. Number 5. The Girl in the Box. 20-year-old Colleen Stan was on her way to a friend's birthday in Northern California when her soon-to-be captor, Cameron Hooker, and wife, Janice, picked up the hitchhiker. Stan would spend much of the next 7 years trapped in a box that let in no light, sound, or fresh air. Convinced by the hookers that a mysterious and dangerous organization would kill her and her family if she didn't comply. Under an agreement between Janice and Cameron, and eventually through a forcibly signed contract with Stan, the young woman was to be a sex slave for Cameron, though no penetration initially occurred. When Stan was let out of her box, where she spent 23 hours a day eating cold food scraps and using a bedpan, she was tortured and raped using various objects. Several years into captivity, a brainwashed Stan was allowed to visit her family once and was even eventually able to get a job. But when Cameron said he wanted Stan to be his second wife, the entire horrifying situation fell apart. Stan eventually got on a bus and fled to her family, while Janice turned her husband in. Receiving immunity, she gave them full cooperation. Number 6. The Eyeball Killer. This Texas murderer and diagnosed psychopath killed at least 1 woman with 2 or more suspected murders to his name. Adopted from an orphanage, Charles Albright was cared for by his very protective adoptive parents. His mother was a school teacher and helped accelerate his learning so far that he even entered college in his teens. Despite being so bright, he was also known for partaking in criminal behavior. Arrested first for aggravated assault at the age of 13, his murderous roots, however, lied in a childhood interest. After Albright received a shotgun at a young age, he used it to kill small animals. He would then stuff them with the help of his mother, appeasing his interests in taxidermy. After failing to complete pre-med training at both North Texas University and Arkansas State Teachers College, he would then be sent to jail for theft, molestation, and eventually the murder of 3 sex workers, all of whose bodies were left nearly or completely nude out in a city street. He shot all 3 victims in the head and removed their eyes with a surgical-like precision. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm trying to stay more consistent with the videos, and I do see the amount of love and respect I'm gaining from this, and I do just want to also say thank you for all of the views and the drastic amount of subscribers I've been gaining. It's honestly, it's surprising to me. I do want to say thank you to all of you, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. I'm going to stay consistent and hopefully be able to post between 2 to 3 days at most. So, once again, I'll see you in the next one.